I also don't really know technical analysis that well, but most people, they tend to use the charts for those trends, looking for the uptrends. And I try to listen to this stuff, and I am worried about gold moving down. And I think a lot of people have made those, made those calls. But I will pound home this point as well. Trump won, and not a single person anywhere said that gold was going to go down when Trump won. I dare you to find me some history on the internet for that. So like, people do not know what's going on. I mean, I love this that people don't know, but do not trust, like, never fully trust someone. And this isn't just about technical analysis. This is just about events. People don't really know. So sometimes it's better to not participate. Sometimes it's better to go out on a limb, but generally, like, you should be concerned. Like a lot of people were so sure gold was, it's not, you can't say that you were right, that gold went up, $40 or $50 overnight and then came down. No, like, you were wrong. Like, people said it was going up over $100 and they were wrong. And so like, this is an industry you need to build your own conviction, even though it can be dangerous. But like, that's just one of many examples. The conviction can come from the macro factors, or it can come from the micro factors, like looking at the individual companies. But you want to figure out what you know, what you don't know, and never fully buy into someone. I mean, like, that's probably, don't buy into anything we're saying completely. Always be skeptical. Always do your due diligence. And like, try to develop your own style, whether it's the fast trading style or you're looking for deep value. I guess that's kind of a good way to kind of wrap up that section.
You brought all that up because it just gives me flashbacks to earlier this year, and post election now everybody's calling for a double bottom right now in gold. We're probably going to retest 1050 or so. I mean, that's what a lot of people are speculating on right now, and it just reminds me of earlier this year. I had friends on the sidelines, and they read a mainstream article like on one of the sites, and some author who kind of maybe is a big name in the field or something says, this is why gold is going below $1,000. So then if you don't have the conviction part of it, then like, some of my friends were like, I was going to buy these shares, but then I read that article. So I waited, and then he missed out. And, it just it reminds me of all that stuff, because it so happens in the markets where everybody thinks a certain trend is going to, develop or something, and it just doesn't happen. Nick made a great point about the election. I mean, there were so many people that were so bullish on gold September, October, and they said, if Trump wins, gold's going to be at 1,500 or so by the end of the year. I mean, it seems so certain, right? And then, it's very humbling what the markets can do. So, I totally agree as well with my own psychology. Is I prefer buying on the way down, because if I had conviction in an idea where, I place my original entry point and the share price goes down even more, that just makes it more of a temptation, I think. I mean, it just makes it more attractive. It's, if I thought a stock was cheap at 20 million market cap and now it's at 12 million market cap, why would I not be buying more? Because I loved it at 20. Why would I, not be like, trying to, scrape every last, penny that I can come up with to add more shares. So, not everybody thinks that way. Everybody has their own approach to playing this. But this, I think it might be useful for somebody out there just, who's getting started, maybe to just hear different points of view. And, this is just how we're doing it. It's not necessarily the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Again, if you're wrong, it definitely can be the path to ruin.
Mm-hmm.
But, to play this space and, to bet big on a lot of these ideas, a lot of conviction. And maybe that's a good question to quickly address as well, as where do you get your conviction from? Like, how do you form this thesis that's so strong that basically, the markets can go completely against you and you're still not shaken, and, you'll still hold the trade and, and buy more even?
Well, I guess I can quickly say on from my end, it's pretty simple. This is, I guess, been developed. This is the contrarian talk. It's like a lot of we always know a lot of people like to think of themselves as contrarians, but when I this is one of the most valuable things about CEO.ca as a website. We look at Northern Shield. Like, I bet on Northern Shield. I do not feel like a contrarian here. Like, that is a very different feeling. And it'll be great if it works out, but there's no way I could go big on it like just because it doesn't fit like all the elements of really having conviction on something. But when I'm on the site and I see positive activity, but no one is picking up on it, and then I do some due diligence. For me, the really small plays when I can call a CEO, and you can't trust what a CEO says all the time. I mean, it's not set in stone. I've definitely had examples. They did not work out. It did not work out well for me either. That those will make great case studies someday. But like you pick up information that no one else has, or if they do have it, very, very few people have it, and that's awesome. When you feel like you know something that no one else knows, and then as information comes out, you can tell that people aren't paying attention. And you can NCO.ca, you can see it in real time. Nobody talks about it. Or if you bring something up, no one responds to you, because they will definitely respond to you if you talk about Northern Shield. Whether you say good things or bad things, that you will get a response. So like that helps so much. And I mean, it's not just CO.ca, but just constantly, if I can see that I'm liking something more and like the fundamentals are working out, and even better if the price is moving down, but like no one else is picking up on it, that is the number one, super contrarian type feeling I get, and I will have some big conviction, assuming the story doesn't change. Like that kind of goes back to what Fabi talked about earlier. If the story changes, then that gets trickier. But if the story doesn't change, then you can really hold on to that conviction.
Yeah. Well, for me, I really don't have a problem going all in on things like gold and uranium. And I know I talk about a lot about these two things, but it's because I think they're really interesting. And the reason why I'm so convinced that this will play out in the long term is because of basic supply and demand, especially when you look at the price structures of the uranium market. Doesn't take a genius. I'm not great at math. When you have the big guys such as Cameco not being able to make any money out of it, then that mines will need to be shut down unless the prices go up. And when they do get shut down, if prices don't go up in time, then that will be the cause of prices going up. And sometimes for these commodities, all you need is a little bit momentum for the commodity to make it into the front page news. And then part of that whole bull market will be the fact that the bull market started itself. So one thing feeds onto the other, and it's sort of an upward spiral. So I try to look at supply and demand. People don't really think much of supply and demand when it comes to gold, I believe, because it's more of a how can I put this, maybe political point of view, of fiat currencies and such things like that. But even if you take away the fact that we're all using currencies that have no proper gold backing or anything of the sort, you can see any sort of presentation by Brent Cook, who's probably one of the best geologists in the field that knows economics, and it will clearly show you, look, we can't find any good deposits anymore, or at least not as we used to. And you take a look at projects were drilled previously, or that they were actually mined previously, and the grades of those projects and the way that they were left alone because the grades weren't high enough. It's like, okay, yeah, we're running short on major discoveries for gold, on good grades for gold. CapEx is just going through the roof, even with oil prices being so low. At the end of the day, in order to build a mine, it's a heck of a lot of money. And so the project needs to be big, and it needs to be decent grade. And so when you take a look at these things, it's almost impossible for it to not be a signal to buy, again, in the long term, because when you're looking at supply and demand, it's years, because supply destruction is something nobody wants to get into. When a big miner, when they buy a project and they build it out, they're not looking to shut that operation down. It's timely, it's expensive, and they'll have to lay a bunch of people off. It's just nobody wants to do it, and so they try to survive, as long as possible, and that delays the whole sort of supply crunch. And I think that because we're in an environment of such cheap money, available everywhere, I think that makes it a little bit of a longer game. You know, like a lot of projects or mines essentially are able to survive on cheap money, where, you know, if we're talking 20 years ago, they wouldn't have. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, supply and demand is what really rules this game, and everything else is just us trying to perfect the process of where do we put our money exactly, which companies within this. That's how I see it.